When you think of timeless anime classics, one masterpiece stands out in the genre of sports anime, and that's Hajime no Ippo. From nostalgic animation to its inspiring underdog story, here's why it's a must-watch. For starters, fans of the vintage and retro aesthetic from the 1990s and 2000s will feel right at home, particularly with the early episodes of the anime adaptation. Even if you've been spoiled by the more modern, clean, and generally otherwise high-quality animation and art style, you will still find enough, if not plenty, to be appreciated in the early parts of Hajime no Ippo. The animation gives off a charming and nostalgic style that has aged well, considering the first season aired almost 20 years ago. Since this is a sports anime, there are no real villains to threaten anyone, especially the main character, like in a violent action series. Therefore, it is good for the cast to be rounded out with interesting characters that have motives and purposes that, in turn, help support the main protagonist's overall character. Undoubtedly, the most important of those supporting roles is the one occupied by Miyata. Early on, he becomes Ippo's biggest rival as Miyata discovers that he has potential. His motives of proving that his father's fighting style is still valid and more than capable of championship material make him stand out on his own as a character. Aside from Miyata, who is a constant presence and motivator for Ippo in large parts of the series, there is also a fun cast of characters surrounding Ippo that support him and make the series much more enjoyable to watch. Miyata is certainly important, but other impactful supporting characters include the owner of Kamogawa Gym, Kamogawa Genji, who is a constant driving force for Ippo to get stronger and keep him disciplined. Takamura is also a friendly support character who provides support and comic relief. For a show that started almost 20 years ago, it certainly doesn't show its age when it comes to fight scenes in actual boxing matches that take place throughout the series. While this is primarily a sports anime and not an overly violent action series, it does not mean it has to be devoid of any action. Most of the action comes in during the boxing matches, and they still do more than enough to keep fans on their toes and thrilled. Every punch is thoroughly hyped up and felt just as hard-hitting. Another aspect that makes Hajime no Ippo an anime and the characters within them so interesting is how they treat supporting and side characters. Along with Ippo Makonouchi and the rest of the main cast, even the side characters get treated in a respected manner. This means that while some fighters make their shining appearance once they fight Ippo and never come back, some are still around for the long haul and are given their respective backstories. This makes the viewer more invested and root for the opponent even if they are an obstacle for Ippo. Jason Ozuma is a good example of this. Like with many other shonen manga and anime series, the main narrative always tries to convey an overall message of inspiration, mainly through its characters. This is especially so in the case of Hajime no Ippo and the main protagonist Ippo Makonouchi. Not every shonen can make this message stick in the fans' minds like Ippo can. Throughout the anime's story following the main protagonist, Ippo, it shows the viewer that so many things can be within reach and be ultimately accomplished through effort, training, and sheer determination. One critical aspect of making this anime series as successful and compelling, especially during the actual boxing matches themselves, is by giving Ippo worthy obstacles to work on. This series would be much less interesting to watch as if the main protagonist just stormed his way through each of his opponents like they were a wet sheet of paper by his sheer natural talent alone. This would leave everyone except the viewer surprised at the outcome of the matches. Ippo constantly finds himself finding stronger opponents and can only achieve the outcome he needs via increasingly more rigorous training. And when he does win, he does so in intensely close matches. As with many fans of any piece of media, and even actual sports, underdogs are almost universally loved. Their stories are most compelling regarding how they got to the high point they are at right now. This anime is no different in that respect. Ippo represents the pinnacle of the underdog category. As discussed in this list, he is totally lovable, and the fans, both in the series and the viewers, find themselves constantly rooting for him. Seeing his rise to stardom is an absolute joy to watch. Of course, not many of us are actual professional boxers or athletes for that matter. However, Ippo as a character is quite relatable. Aside from being a professional boxer and athlete overall, he is still a high school kid trying to make something of himself in the world. Before, he was quite timid, getting bullied at school and constantly helping his mom's business when not in classes. But he finally finds his passion, and himself by extension, through boxing, which not only gives him more confidence and something to dedicate himself to, but also improves himself. Thanks for watching everybody, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.